Welcome to the 9642 podcast. This is your host, Mr. Number 9.
And this is The Fool.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our bread and butter here. We're talking more and more football.
Yeah, woo!
The January transfer window is open and or closed rather, and we had a bunch of interesting transfers come through, which we're going to talk about. The tail end of the AFCON has happened as well, which ended excitingly, though a bit tragically as well. And of course, we have the Champions League draw, which we will look at. Not in that particular order either, by the way. Let's get into AFCON. Congratulations, Senegal. They were everybody's favorites before the tournament started, and while they started slow, they eventually managed to win. Bad luck for Burkina Faso. They finished fourth, and Cameroon, after the stadium disaster, couldn't win their semi-final against Egypt. And basically, the kings of the continent played against Senegal, and unfortunately for them, Senegal won. It was a tense affair, 4-2 on penalties.
Yeah. It's a very tense affair.
The classic final, right? This is what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, 0-0, and all the way to penalties and 4-2. Yeah. They're pretty classic sort of outcomes there.
Yeah, I mean, the tournament was starting great. We were all getting really into it, and obviously the tragedy at January the 26th, I want to say, in Yaoundé, with the stadium disaster was obviously a big downer, a tragic moment for everyone. And there's obviously going to be a lot of questions asked about how it happened, what happened. Hopefully we'll get some answers for that. But looking on the football side of the tournament, disappointing for Cameroon all around, do you think? They look like the team informed and the team to beat until the semis.
They really did, yeah. So, very disappointing for them, I would say. They hadn't lost a game up to that point, so they'd have to be very disappointed.
They almost lost to Comoros in the second round, and Comoros had their left back playing at goalie because of COVID restrictions, and then got a player sent off, and then just somehow almost managed to beat Cameroon there. So, but the fairy tale was not to be for their debut AFCON campaign.
Yeah.
Gambia managed to make quarterfinals on their debut AFCON campaign. Another fairy tale, cool. I think. They'd be very happy with that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Managing to beat Guinea in a bad-tempered match with multiple red cards happening. Yeah. What can you say? It's the sort of thing that happens in a local derby in the international.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think most of the teams that haven't qualified for the African World Cup third round should be happy. They put up a gallant fight. It wasn't to be, like I said, for Burkina Faso, who were the only remaining non-World Cup team to be in the semi-finals. But yeah, the other three there were the usual suspects, right? Cameroon, Senegal, Egypt. That's whom you expect to see in the semi-finals of AFCON.
Yeah, definitely expect them to be there. So no surprises there.
Yeah.
They say it was pretty close all round. I mean, Burkina Faso was outplayed by Senegal in the semi-finals 3-1. I mean, that's just how that goes. But I mean, they took it to penalties in the third-fourth match. That looked like a classic third-fourth match as well. Like high scoring, 3-3, then through the penalties. Just crazy stuff.
Yeah, and that was also, I believe that's also a repeat of the semi-finals of the 92 AFCON, which was the first one I watched.
All right, I see.
And there's a lot I think there's a lot of heart to be taken for Egypt, Senegal, and Cameroon going into the World Cup.
Yeah.
They should be confident. I think their players are showing they're in form, so we'll see in a few, well, basically in a couple of weeks' time, isn't it? In March.
Into March,
3 or
yeah.
4 weeks. March, 3 or 4 weeks, we'll see. Oh, 8 weeks, I guess, then.
Yeah.
We'll see how they do then, and there'll be a bunch of qualifiers, which we will be covering then.
Yes. At least I think just after that.
Moving on from there, we are going to look at the transfer window. Every club, everything, and we're going to give them a grade. Going in alphabetical order. This is the info I have. I don't know what you have. But Aston Villa got Callum Chambers, Philip Coutinho, Lucas Digne. I think incredible work. A++. Immediately, like Phil Coutinho looks like he's just immediately coming in, scoring a goal, assisting another. Lucas Digne was the best player at Everton. I don't know why Everton sold him.
That's weirdo.
Why you sell a fullback who's in form, and Callum Chambers, he's had a mixed career at Arsenal, should we say, but he's a versatile player. He can play all on the right side of the defense. He can cover the center of the defense if need be. He'd be a useful squad player for Aston Villa. I think for a January transfer window, that's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
We did skip over Arsenal on the alphabetical order, so I apologize to the Gunners fans. But their big one is they have an exit. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang leaves the club. F or F minus?
That feels like an F minus. I mean, that's a big leave.
Yeah. Letting your captain leave to go to Barcelona on a free transfer. Oof.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, if the player doesn't want to stay, the player doesn't want to stay. Not much you can do there, but yeah.
No, not a lot you can do. But
the fact that it got to that situation where like they're in a tight race for top 4, he would have been a key player if he could get some form, but was not to be.
Yeah.
Now we move into the B clubs, as in the clubs that start with B. Christian Eriksen basically ended his contract with Inter Milan on mutual terms after his incident in the Euros. He's been given a chance to play at Brentford. It's basically a pay-as-you-go deal. So because he has an ICD, he's not allowed to play in Italian football. There's no such hesitation in English football, so he came back to England. Brentford's giving him a go. I want to give this an A, just because if it works, it'll be a masterstroke. Like, I think it's worth the risk. It's not even really a risk. It's worth a punt. It's a feel-good story, and Christian Eriksen comes back to London. You know, everybody's gonna like this.
Yeah, I see no real problems here either. Like, as you say, it's a sort of a as-you-go thing, so there's no real risk if it doesn't work out. You know, well, they all tried, but yeah, it gives Brentford a world-class player. It gives Eriksen a route back to top flight football as well. So I think all round that's both sides. That's A++.
Yeah. So definitely we'll be looking forward to seeing how he does. Now, next up we have Burnley, who lost Chris Wood, and they've replaced him with Wout Weghorst from Wolfsburg. Now, both the player and club have mentioned that the buyout clause was triggered in his contract. So this is why 25 million for Chris Wood. Newcastle got. We will talk about Newcastle, of course. The Burnley was forced to sell him. Mixed feelings about this, because I think Chris Wood is like a relegation warrior, and Burnley may have literally just sold survival to the Premiership to Newcastle for 25 million.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well.
Like, he's playing in the Bundesliga. These days in the Premiership, so hard for players from overseas to come in and immediately be good.
Yeah, exactly.
Immediately, like your Bruno Fernandezes and players like him are rare these days. So I think it's going to be very difficult for Burnley going forward. I'm not going to give them the F minus of Arsenal. I think D.
Yeah, I would give them a C minus. I mean, as you said, it was a buyout clause that set that as that they had no real choice once Newcastle said, "Yep, we'll pay the 25 million." Like it's what was in the contract. So sort of hard to give them a fail mark or something that they basically had their hands tied. Like it's a fail mark from signing Chris Wood, but at the time it was a really good idea to have that, and like it wouldn't have been a bad thing. So I think it's bad for Burnley. As you say, I feel like that's just called Burnley. You're going down. Like
Yeah, I don't think.
But at the same time, as say that's just the way contracts work. You know, you said you can have this player if you pay this money, and Newcastle went, sure, here's the money. And so
Pretty much.
And I don't know if I guess Weghorst is probably the best option Burnley had for the replacement. So at least they got a replacement. So for me, that's a C minus. Like you're forced into something because of the way the contract is, but you got a replacement. You may or may not work out, but you had to get it. Like if they hadn't got a replacement, that's fail. But they at least got a replacement with.
Yeah, and Burnley have had issues scoring goals, so we will see how it goes going forward for them. Next up, we have Everton. Vitaly Miolenko coming in to replace Digny, and Nathan Patterson on the right side of fullback, 20-year-old. And from Rangers, they've got Donny van de Beek on loan, Dele Alli on loan. All round good business. I mean, sure, selling Digny was a terrible idea, but they have got two new fullbacks at the club. I am not a fan of buying someone new for somebody already established. Why? Bird in hand is worth two in the bush, as they say. But apparently there were issues with the manager, but they fired the manager, so that's really dumb.
Yeah.
Like, if you were gonna fire the manager anyway, don't sell all these players that you've sold because the manager annoyed you. Like, this is, like I said, that's really dumb. But getting Donny van de Beek and Dele Alli, Frank Lampard's done really well. So this grade is not a criticism of Frank Lampard. He's done incredibly well. Limited time he's had. He's obviously been arranging a lot of this behind the scene.
Yeah.
Getting Frank Lampard is a good move as well. I'm inclined to give them a C.
Yeah, I'm inclined as well. You're right. Like, seems it was sort of a F move to sell Digny and sack your manager, sort of same-ish time. But then what they've done after that is sort of made up for it. It still feels like you didn't need to do the selling if you were just going to sack the manager that everybody was having a problem with and get in a manager that has somewhat proven to be able to take a club and be like, hey, things are going badly, but I can sort of steady the ship and make things work.
I agree.
It's then to sell a player and then, but they say they did replace them well enough, so yeah, C minus, I guess. Like it's a pass, but I'm not like thinking, oh my god, this is great work, but it's like, yeah, you did what was needed, I guess. C or C minus.
Yeah. Liverpool, Luis Diaz. I don't know how much you've watched of this player. I've been following him a little bit on the hipster football blogs. He's apparently the best player in the Premier League in Portugal. Is incredible down the left flank, which is Sadio Mane's area. But he could play as a forward. He could play as a left mid. In the midfield three. He can also play in the center. He's super versatile. He's happy to press really well. And also opens up channels. Like, this guy's a great player. If he works at Liverpool, if he settles and everything, he's going to be a really good player. 45 million is a bargain. For a January transfer, this is at least an A for me, for Jurgen Klopp. That's really well done by Liverpool. It's also like, it puts pressure on players like Mane, whose form have dropped a bit. And basically, if Salah were to leave now, or Mane were to leave now, not sign new contracts, they're like, this is the new guy. They've replaced him. It's a really clever business. I think.
That's good. Yeah, I don't know much about Diaz, so I'm quickly looking up now. So I'll have to defer to your experience and expertise on him. But yeah, I mean, looking quickly, it seems to be that everybody is agreeing that he's a really good buy. So that I think for the reasons you put out, that has to be an A for Liverpool. Got someone that's really good ahead of Spurs and United. I think it said. So they've moved quickly, got a guy that others wanted as well, secured in, as you said.
Especially United, because there's a bit of a Portuguese mafia at United, and United traditionally get a lot of good Portuguese players from the Portuguese league.
Yeah,
like they had a long-standing partnership with Sporting. Carlos Queiroz was at the club for such a long time, and as I said, there's basically a Portuguese mafia there, or a Portuguese-speaking mafia there. So. I'm surprised Luis Diaz didn't want to go there. But also, I'm going to change that a bit. The fact that Liverpool still haven't sorted out Mohamed Salah's contract and Virgil van Dijk contract, and they're both due to expire around the same time. And I believe it's the same situation for Bobby Firmino. So. I am gonna lower my grade a little bit because I count that as part of your transfer business, getting your player things sorted out. At least that, or you should have sold Salah in this thing if you weren't going to be able to re-sign the And he's not. He's just asking for regular GOAT level money. He's not asking for ridiculous GOAT level money. He's not asking for PSG wages. He's asking for Man City wages or Man United. Yeah. So I think. Salah's not asking for unreasonable things, is what I'm saying,
Yeah.
I think Mohamed Salah is worth 300 million a week, 300,000 a week, I think.
Yeah.
At the form he's under. So I think, Liverpool, I'm going to have to change that to a B, not an A. B, overall. But that transfer is great. A for the transfer itself, for sure.
Yeah. Definitely a great transfer, as you say. I think you're right. Sort of the same at Chelsea. I was just looking. I can't see whether we've actually managed to firm up our contract expiring people yet. But similar thing of if you haven't sorted them over this or just before this transfer window, that's sort of going to be a something hanging over you for the rest of the season. They can sort of just leave at the end of the season.
Yeah. Moving on from Liverpool, we are going to the champions-elect, shall we say, or defending champions, really, as well. Ferran Torres was leaving City after he had a great season last season, but he wanted to leave the club, and City were like, okay, if we get a player, if we get the right offer for you, we will let you go. No point keeping you if you don't want to stay.
Yeah.
Which seems to have become their mantra. But they got good money for him, 55 million for a player who wanted to go to Barcelona, of all people. Where are they getting this money that they didn't pay to keep Messi?
Yeah.
And so Torres has gone to Barcelona for 55 million, and they've also, instead of getting a proven centre forward, they've gotten Julian Alvarez from River Plate, 22 years old. He's being kept at his current club on loan till the end of the season. Good business, I think, for both the River Plate and Julian Alvarez and City. I mean, bring him in as a young player. If he proves to be really, really good at City, actually beds in. And City are very good at scouting. I feel like this guy would have been a player they put into one of their feeder clubs in either New York or Melbourne or Mumbai for that matter, and let him slowly go up the ranks. But they've decided, we need a striker at City. Why not put him in? Bring him in, let him learn. Even if he doesn't get start for the team next season all that much, comes in as a sub. City didn't need a striker this season, so maybe they won't need one next season either. So
might as well have the apprentice on.
You have the luxury to grow someone instead of like buying one in. Grow something for cheap. So it's very interesting. I think does that signal they're not necessarily going to um, go for Mbappe or uh, what's his name? I'm Dortmund striker. It's gonna kill me.
Yeah. God damn it.
Haaland.
Haaland. Yeah. It was like
Yes.
the guy we all know. That guy.
The guy we all know that everybody's listening just understood, but of course his name just escaped me. Erling Haaland. Maybe they're not going to go for him. Maybe Chelsea. Maybe United have put down that they are trying to go for him. So we'll see how that works out.
Maybe it's just
I'd
the
be
backup as
surprised
well.
if yeah, I'll also be surprised if City didn't put in their money. Just
I
to
guess
show that they were.
Yeah, I guess it just gives them a backup option. So if they get Haaland, they got Haaland and Alvarez. Like, well, we've got two good people. We've got the proven striker and the Wunderkind to grow. And if they don't get him because Chelsea or United or whoever outbids or he decides to go elsewhere or whatever comes up, and they're like, we still got Alvarez and our current attacking lot. So
Yeah,
no harm, no foul, I guess.
exactly. Yeah, good business from City all around. They always do good business if they do any business in the January transfer window.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to give them an A here. Got rid of a player who didn't want to stay for very good money, and got in a replacement to solve a long-term problem. Maybe.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong there. Newcastle. This is the one everybody has been waiting for, I'm sure. First off, Kieran Trippier coming in from Atletico Madrid for 15 million. Insane.
Yeah.
Great buy. Hey, done. 15 mil for an England starter. Such a good player.
Yeah.
Dan Burn from Burnley, coming in from Brighton. Let's get there. Buying somebody from a direct rival, which is what I like. He's center back. I don't know if he's as good as Lascelles or Clark, but those guys have been leaking goals. If he just if all he does is kick them up the bum and acts as another, backup to the defense, it's going to be job well done, I think. And Eddie Howe, I think, will know how to use them. So good price that. Chris Wood for £30 million. This is we need to get us out. This is Chris Wood is potentially their get out of jail free card. How they plan to use Chris Wood is going to be interesting because they do have Callum Wilson and Alan St. Maximin, who are, but they have been lacking in goals, and Chris Wood lives off nothing pretty much at Burnley and scores goals. So if Newcastle are even give him slightly better service, if he can get even 5 to 10 goals, that's going to be a really good. That's going to be a really good buy for them. 30 million, it's pricey, definitely pricey, but I can't give this less than a B- at least.
Yeah,
that's basically a bit of a tentative buy. You don't know how well Chris will play in Newcastle, and he is a bit of an injury-prone player as well. That is the other downside of that. Obviously, we love him. Don't get us wrong, and he's going to be awesome, and he's going to win the World Cup for Newcastle for New Zealand this summer.
That's
but
right.
That's just Newcastle.
So far, like his first 2 games in Newcastle were a bit edgy, but I did notice that. Well, some of the critics were like, "Oh, Chris Wood's not doing anything." Like all the managers, all his fellow players were like, "Oh yeah, no, having him on board, it's really made a big difference. Like, he's doing great work out there, and it's actually making a difference in the field and making us better." So that's a good sign that whilst maybe visually there's not things happening, the team's feeling better with him there. At least if that's something that brings along like this, we've got a guy that has been in the exact position we've been in for a team with scraps and has outscored actual top strikers. The year before he was one of the top. Wasn't the top, but he was top 3 or top 4 strikers in the league. This season hasn't been as good for him. I think he's only scored 3 goals so far this season. Very poor for him, but I think showed more how little he was getting at Burnley. As you're saying, if Newcastle can provide him even a little bit more service, like he'll get back to last year's numbers, and that will be enough for Newcastle. And same with Trippier coming in as well, like that's just really shoring up things. Like, yeah, I don't see Newcastle as having a hard to give them a poor grade here. Like say B- seems even low, like a B, B plus.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other part is they got Bruno Guimaraes from Lyon. This kid is well, he's not a kid anymore. He's 24, but he's a good player. This is potentially a Conte level signing for Newcastle.
Yeah,
I think 42 million worth the money. They need a strong, they need somebody who's a rock in the middle of the midfield. That doesn't matter what formation you're playing. Somebody who doesn't keeps people in line, doesn't let the balls in. I mean, I'm only slightly exaggerating about the Kante comparison, but if Newcastle stay up, he's going to have a lot to say about it. I think that's a great buy. You will need all these players. I'll also point out that all these players have probably also been told, like, if we don't stay up, you are playing in the Championship next season.
Yeah.
But we're going back up. That's one season of Championship football. But, if you have, like, ambitions of doing stuff, then this is probably not the project for you. Like, so these are all players who can also, fight the good fight for them in the Championship next season.
Yeah, and I feel like it's all players that will do that as well. Like as you say, it would have been part of the conversations. Like this is, we may or may not stay up. Like I feel the buying like that transfer window for Newcastle is about as good as they could do in this transfer with the money they've got to try and with the position they've got, try and keep up play. It's all good transfers that are aimed at keeping them up, but at the same time going. But it is a 3-year project. So if we go down, we've got another year to get through, and then we'll be back up. And it's all players that would sign on to that project of, we'll fight for staying up. And if we do, yay. If we don't, it's a year of the Championship. We can manage that, and we're all happy to go along with that and win the Championship will come, and then come back up. So yeah, I feel like it's some very astute buying there.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's really going to not do that. So.
Yeah, the other last player who we didn't mention yet, Matt Targett, who was Aston Villa's players player of the season. Really good player, I think, has good Premiership experience. Loan move to Newcastle. If Newcastle stay up, he is going to stay. So he will probably not play in the Championship next season if they were to be relegated, hence the loan move. But yeah, it's I think another incredible buy. Like you've basically bought a whole defense here and a striker. A++ once again, like incredible transfer window for Newcastle. They've given the current owners of Newcastle have given the Eddie Howe the tools he needs for the project for the first window. So I don't think he can complain at all.
There's no, I don't see any complaints in here at all. You've got just the tools you needed, people that will buy into the project, and probably, say, good enough set of people to go along with this current squad to A, fill in for the problems they've been having, B, drive others to better, give the competition so that people are actually going to push higher, and therefore likely give the best chance of staying up, which obviously is their prime route, the one that they would prefer to head down, but at the same point not locking them into what happens if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly right. Next up we have Tottenham Hotspur with Rodrigo Bentancur, Dejan Kulusevski. They joined on deadline day. They are, I think the latter is on loan, and Rodrigo Bentancur purchased for 19 million quid. I'm telling you, Conte is starting the project. He wants Spurs to qualify for the Champions League this season. They want to be, they're not just settling for Europa League. They want to be They want to be in the top tier. They want to be finishing in the Champions League. And I think it's a good buy. Spurs have done decent business for what, as much of as you can do a project for, like a Conte style project, because it needs a bit of time. You do need to build that right team, and Conte needs a particular player, fits a particular profile. And they've given him a few of the tools. So it's going to be interesting to see what Conte does with them. I mean, it is still, I think, at least with the sort of idea they can, when Conte leaves, not if, we can, we know that they've got a few, they've got a few they've got a style, and their next manager, they should look for a manager who can utilize those players the right way. But yeah, I think Spurs decent business all around. I gotta say B. I don't know what the orange haired one thinks about it, but yeah. Just as a side note, Manchester United have loaned a bunch of players out. Nobody's coming in. Amad Diallo to Rangers, Anthony Martial to Sevilla, Donny van de Beek to Everton. Yeah, I don't particularly. I think there were too many players in the squad probably at United to keep people happy, so there needed to be a few outgoings. Feel bad for Jesse Lingard, who was sanctioned to have a game to leave the club, but they couldn't find a loan deal for him because he wanted to make it to the. And this is like one of those, you feel bad for him because Jesse Lingard is a social media guy, and Ralph Rangnick has gone on about, I don't communicate to people on social media, and so Jesse Lingard went and had a chat with him and said, look, I want to play for England in the World Cup, and if I'm not in your team, that's not going to happen. And Rangnick went, yeah, fair enough. I'm happy to let you leave. Then you've given me a valid reason, and I understand that I can't guarantee you this. You're not going to be happy. That's completely acceptable. And because there wasn't going to be a loan fee and things like this, it just didn't get through. So I feel bad for Jesse Lingard there.
Yeah, that's sad.
He will be free of his United contract and free to go wherever he likes later on.
Yeah.
But I think there's not much else. I don't think Chelsea's had any major incomings or outgoings for that matter. I think other than loans.
I think it was It's basically just loans. Lewis Baker got sold, but loans. And
yeah,
a couple of reserve team type people in, but I think,
this is the standard January window. And Newcastle. Everybody else kind of bought okay players, and Newcastle bought a bunch of good players. I do think that they have improved their position. I think they're in a position now not to be relegated.
Yeah.
I think we did say we reserved judgment on Newcastle until we see what they do in the transfer window about that relegation battle.
Yeah.
I think Norwich are going to stay up. They're going to fight. I think looking at the table now, I think Watford and Burnley are probably done. I think it's with the sale of Chris Wood. I think that's a league too far. Norwich and Newcastle are gonna fight out for that 17th spot, and also maybe even Everton if they don't pick up their game. Everton were about to get into a relegation dogfight, I think.
Yeah. I think they're still pretty much in it. They're only on 19 points.
Yeah, and they're definitely still in. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I say, and Watford's on 15. So I mean, they're Burnley's only 13. Like, it's not that big a difference, but I do feel Burnley's transfer window sort of was them being like, sure, we're going to play championship next year. That's just what we're doing. We'll take our money for Chris Wood. Thanks. We'll do what we can, but this side, we're going down. Newcastle's buying's like, we're actually going to fight it. I feel Everton sort of is doing their best to try and the rest of that fall, but it could still be very dicey for them. And a few bad results here and there, and they haven't been picking up good results recently. I mean, their signings will start to show that, but
Yeah, I think getting reinforcements is key. Like, Everton have done the right thing by bringing more bodies for the fight.
Yeah.
I think whether those are the right bodies, we'll find out.
Yeah.
It's
and they
interesting
got
with
Lampard as well,
Spurs.
so that's
Yeah,
probably another good body into that fight.
like if you look at right now, there are clubs who have only played 19 games, when like Burnley, and there's clubs who have only played 24 games. So it is going to be a topsy-turvy season, to say the least.
That's a good point with Burnley being only 19 games. So
yeah, but I think it's harder to make up points when you have to play a bunch of games at once at the end of the season.
Especially as it gets later and later in the season for them to have to catch those games up. Like it's going to be harder and harder.
I think so too. It's going to be really challenging. So that's not an advantage for Burnley. It's just that they have more points available for them to earn.
Yeah,
is all mathematically, but it does make it harder. I think. Like at the moment in the top four, like I think City are sitting pretty. To be completely fair, sure they're a game ahead of New Liverpool, but a good 9 points ahead.
Yeah, even that game, Liverpool wins that. It's still 6 points difference. So that's 2 completely lost games by City. Liverpool win over them, so it's. I mean, Manchester City have now lost another game, so maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I somehow don't see City dropping enough points for Liverpool to catch them.
We've looked over Manchester City's schedule before. I don't think there's much coming up that's gonna really hurt them in the upcoming games. And they've only lost 2 games this season and like won 18 already out of 23. They're having an incredible season. Liverpool are a game behind. I think they're with 2 games ahead of Chelsea in terms of they've got 2 games in hand to Chelsea and a point ahead. So I think that's a good lead, and they've brought in a reinforcement, a key reinforcement, I think, for their attack.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be difficult for Chelsea to catch them on second, but I think Chelsea have kind of secured 3rd place, but they just have to be careful. United are only 2 games behind them, and only about 9 points behind. So they'll only be about 3 points behind if they were to win their 2 remaining games in hand. But it's Manchester United, so that's not going to happen. So I don't really need to worry.
We do have a bit of a congested fixture list coming up for us because we're off to the World Club Champs. So February is mostly over there, and then
a bit of a make or break for Chelsea. I don't think they're going to lose a top 4 spot, but it's going to be a difficult month, a challenging month for them.
It just means that there's a couple extra games. Like you have to find a few extra games here and there. That scheduling thing again.
That top 4 is tight. Like United, West Ham, Arsenal, Spurs. I think Spurs buying 2 good players, though they have loaned out Dele Alli, who, to be fair, hasn't been playing that good for Spurs anyway. So that's fair enough. Arsenal, who've lost Aubameyang, I don't know how they're gonna do without him. But he hasn't been playing that well for Arsenal, to be fair, this season. So we'll see. This is the chance for West Ham. I think once again they're in pole position at the moment. If you look at games in hand and like not losing players and things like this,
they're
they are 3 games ahead. They have played 3 more games than Spurs. So in that top 4 battle, Spurs are probably in the mathematically most advantageous position. And they don't have European football, but Manchester United are out of the FA Cup, and I think so that kind of makes up for that part, I guess. But I do think Manchester United are going to target Europe they want to try and qualify for the Champions League because I don't think they're going to finish top 4. I think the club knows that. I think Ralph Ragnick knows that. So I think this is Spurs, and it's one of the 3 London clubs that are going to finish 4th.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be a tight race, as you say. It's interesting how it's all going to fall out. Yeah, I think you may be right that maybe United is going to start slipping further. But say they got Europa, so maybe they just say if they focus there, then that gives them a route, and they'll probably be in touchy distance, so that if that fails, they can re-concentrate back onto 4th spot. Probably won't be too far off the pace to get there, if not still hanging on to 4th by a fingernail. But yeah, I feel like it's actually hard to tell. The 4 of them all got their pros and cons about how it's going to work out. Arsenal were resurgent, but this transfer window is probably not the best for them, so that may hurt them, but we'll have to see. Yeah, Spurs have got the games in hand, but they're the bottom of that pile, but they had the better transfer window. But games in hand doesn't necessarily turn into results, because maybe it's too many, especially now you're getting lots of games piled in top of each other. That's, starts to stretch that squad a lot.
Yeah. That being said, United this month anyway, in February, have a pretty tasty schedule. Burnley away, Southampton at home, Brighton at home, Leeds away, and Watford at home when for February, and they've got that Atletico away for the Champions League.
Yeah.
So obviously they're gonna want to rest some players and stuff for that to try and get into the Atletico game. But United have beaten Leeds every time since Leeds got promoted, and that's a club they don't want to lose to. They definitely don't want to lose to those South Coast teams who are like they're not in the relegation zone, but they're threatening. They're thereabouts at the moment. And obviously Watford, Burnley are clubs I think are going to be relegated. So if United don't beat them, then that says how bad they are. That's a so there is a good chance United can win all their Premier League games this season. In which case, we're having a completely different conversation. Which is like the opposite of what Chelsea has. Like they have a very difficult February.
Yeah.
That said, United are not going to win all their games in February. So that's I'm just putting it out there. Before people go on about me being an overly optimistic United fan, no, I know that's not going to happen. Like, settle down.
Settle down, yeah. We'll be slightly optimistic, but really just
not going to happen. But I mean, that's
for Chelsea. I mean, just as a side point, like our February is basically Crystal Palace. That's our February schedule for the Premier League. Like everything else is other competition.
Yeah, which is not bad for from a Premier League point of view. You are going to have a lot of games to catch up, which is, as we said, kind of disadvantageous.
Yeah. But, I mean, hopefully that should be a 3-pointer anyway on the 20th. We should have those points. Yeah, and that's just a matter of keeping in touch. But
former Chelsea Kurt Zuma kicked a cat.
Oh, really? Oh my, Zuma, what have you done? Dear God. I was before that bombshell, which is horrible, horrible stuff. I was going to say our March is looking really good from a Premier League point of view. We get Burnley, Newcastle, and Norwich City through March. So that seems
Yeah, I mean, I think Norwich City will be a force because they'll be trying to get out of relegation. But that's still not necessarily a team you should lose to. But
it's 3 relegation battles happening, which may mean some bus parked and hoping for a draw, or maybe them doing whatever they can. But technically, that should be that along with Crystal Palace should be 4 from 4 until we get to the end of March. least from a Premier League point of view, it should keep us moving along quite well. And there's no real super tough top of the table fixtures in that. And concentrate on the Champions League and on the World Cup, the Club World Cup during that time.
Yes. Yeah, exactly right. Moving on from the Premier League, we go to the Champions League, and the Champions League draw has been done. We knew the teams going in, and now we know the matchups, and they are all tasty because is what it's like in the Champions League once the knockouts begin. Let's at the start, we have the Old Prince and the Crown Prince. PSG versus Real Madrid.
Yeah.
PSG, I'm just gonna say it. They are gonna own Real Madrid. They've been really good against the Spanish clubs in recent years. It's the whole "if we can't beat you, we'll buy you" strategy that's worked really well for them.
Yeah.
I think Messi's gonna try and prove something. Sergio Ramos is going to be up there for the fight, I think. I would be very surprised if PSG, especially because they've got the home thing at first in February, don't put up a good showing. I expect them to do really well. They're going to play at the Bernabeu, and I expect them to do well against Real Madrid. I'm going for PSG on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit harsh on Real Madrid. Like, they win their group, and PSG is your number 2 in one of the other groups. Like well,
yeah, that's a very rough draw, to be fair.
I say,
go on.
PSG, I think, got the firepower this year. Real Madrid less so. I think PSG is gonna go through. But it's going to be pretty close in both ones. I feel like one of the games might end up being a blowout, and that's just the deciding bit. But I feel like the tie itself is going to be pretty close. I think I agree with you that PSG is going to take it, but it is a pretty choice, tasty meal of a tie. As you say, we've got them all the way through this. That's a particularly good one.
Next up, we have Sporting Lisbon against Manchester City. Sporting Lisbon returning to the champion, or like winning the Premier League after a long time, and then after going through all the troubles that the club's going through at the moment, their reward after doing so well in the group stages is to play Manchester City. They're a plucky outfit. They're gonna put up a big fight at home, but I think City is gonna beat them at home. It will be a close game, but City know how to break down tough defenses, especially in Europe, and they have the players and they have the firepower. I think. Sorry, Sporting. The fairy tale ends here.
I think you're right. Yeah. It's that end of this fairy tale. It's been a good run for them. They did really well, second in their group, but once again, that draw can sometimes just be not very nice on you. Yeah, getting City, especially in the form City's in, like that end of the road for you, Sporting. Sorry.
Pretty much. Following on from that, we have an all-German affair. Sorry, not all German affair, but German-speaking affair. RB Salzburg and Bayern. Salzburg have had a bit of a fairy tale run as well, qualifying for knockouts of the Champions League. Obviously a really well-run club. They're usually a bit overshadowed by their sister club, the Lawn Bowls people from Leipzig. But Bayern are a favorite for a reason, right? Surely and they're probably one of the favorites for people to win the Champions League and go all the way through. So don't see any reason to take that status away from them. Bayern.
Yeah, I think you're right. So once again, good work by Salzburg, getting up to second in their group, but it's the way that the cookie crumbles. And get your draw, get a top seed, you get Bayern. Once again, that's just where things stop.
Yeah. Then we have the battle between two European giants, Inter Milan Internazionale, and Liverpool.
Mm.
Inter have been playing really well this season. I think this matchup is actually going to be closer than people think.
Yeah.
I do think Liverpool are going to win here, just because the European form is irresistible, even away from home. But I do think Inter's going to put up a fight. I don't think Liverpool's going to have a lead going into the second round at home in Anfield, but they
Yeah.
should win in the end.
They should win at the end. As you say, Inter's doing very well. They're top of the Serie A at the moment. So yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty close match, as you say. Like, the tie is going to be close. I think Liverpool having qualified top, getting the benefit of having the home game second, I think will do it. To say, don't see them having the lead going into that tie, but it's either just going to be a 1-goal deficit or it's going to be a tie. And then they should be able to make it up at home. But you say it's going to be very close because Inter's playing really well this year. Seem to be back at a high form. So see how it goes for them.
Yeah. Next up, we have Chelsea. We're probably given a draw they're pretty happy with.
Yeah.
Against Lille. Definitely a winnable fixture for Chelsea on paper, but they, as you mentioned, have a really busy schedule. Club World Cup, lots of games to play, and we don't know how fatigue will affect them in the home stretch. So they may even play a bit poorly in the first leg at home, but make up for it in the end in Lille. But Lille are a tough outfit to break up. They're the classic French Liga streetwise performer. So it's going to be tough for Chelsea, but I do think Chelsea are going to go through.
Yeah. The only thing I'm looking in our favour is that Lille are in a bit of a slump at the moment. So hopefully that...
They've been in a slump in Ligue 1 for a while, but Champions League doing really well somehow.
Yeah.
So
I was just hoping that maybe that sort of just balances out our fatigue, that they're not in the best thing, but it's a Champions League, they've been playing well, so who knows how it's going to go. So it's a bit busy for us, more just the travel, going to the Club World Champs, coming back, playing Palace, then playing Lille, so see how we go. I think, out of the teams we could have got, probably the best option that we could have been drawn with. So.
Yeah. And next up, we have Villarreal playing Juve. Villarreal are streetwise experienced performers in this league. They're current Europa League champions as well.
Yeah.
Really good side. Juve are are really good in Europe at the moment, but not doing too well in Serie. This is a really even contest. I actually think Villarreal are going to go ahead. Currently, they play like a team. They play. Pellegrini's just got them going properly. I think they're gonna do really well this Champions League. I could even see them making it to the semis.
Ooh. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Villarreal are doing reasonably well. Juventus not having the season they've had previously. So yeah, I think you're right that Villarreal's probably going to win the tie. It's another pretty close one. So be interesting to see. I don't know how far Villarreal could go. That's going to depend on who that quarterfinal draws for. But yeah, I mean they're playing well, so anything's possible. Right draw there. In good form. It's knockout football now, right? So
absolutely. And just as next up, we have Atletico Madrid and Manchester United. Both clubs are Atletico currently top of La Liga, one of the teams to beat there, but they haven't played that well in the Champions League. United haven't been playing well, full stop, but it's difficult for me to say United are going to beat Madrid here. I think United are going to lose and try and win the Europa League. That seems to be the plan.
I think there's still potentially an option here. They got Atletico. Yes, but in Madrid it can be hard. But I think that's going to be the key. If it's 2 or more goals, then yeah, okay, it might be over. But if it's a draw or just 1 goal deficit, especially if they get an away goal, then that could be a big difference going into the second leg of the tie. So I think the game in Madrid is going to be the make or break for United for that tie and where they go and how they say whether how much they're trying and how much they're going to try for a different route. But
yeah. Next up, we have Benfica versus Ajax, 2 European giants. They have they have about 6 European Cups between them. So this is going to be a really interesting fight. Unfortunately, they're not quite the big clubs they used to be from back in the day.
Yeah.
But you can definitely. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting matchup. I do think Ajax are going to win. It's a bit of I think it's a bit of a window for Ten Hag to show the big clubs in Europe what a good manager he is.
Yeah.
So he can get the United job next season. Hopefully. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I think Ajax are gonna go ahead. It would be incredible, I think, if Ajax did a really deep run. Like, I think Ajax have a good enough team to win the Champions League.
Yeah.
But the manager and the style, I don't think they will, by the way. But I think if you're looking for like a romantic story to bet some money on, I would pick Ajax.
Yeah. I think Ajax is going to win that one as well. I think that's. I mean, there was a few options that they could have gotten that would not have been so nice for them for winning their group. I think Benfica is a good reward for them. It's good reward for Benfica as well. Like, they've done well to come second in their group, and it's going to be a really interesting fight, that one. I think you're right that Ajax are going to take the tie, and potentially that's going to be a troubling quarter-final matchup, whoever gets Ajax or Benfica. But much like if the Villarreal makes through, Ajax makes it through, that's going to be 2 potentially difficult opponents in the quarterfinals for whoever gets them, or if they get each other, which would be sad and wonderful at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, going to be good football around, as it always is once you get to the knockouts of the Champions League.
Absolutely. Just a few stats here. So Salzburg, I think, is the smallest city that's still got a Champions League club.
Nice.
In the knockout stages. We have Lisbon and Manchester are equally represented with the most number, and Madrid, of course, are the cities with the most number of participants still remaining in the competition. So, yeah, there's some interesting facts I like to share.
That's very interesting.
And now we are moving on to our final segment, which is, as always,
Mo Watch. Maybe we need to come up with like a little jingle or something for this, by the way. Just
yeah, we maybe do. We might actually have to write something. As you know, we are following the trials and tribulations of the manager we love and sometimes don't love so much, Jose Mourinho, and his current season at Roma. Where last time we caught up with our man, he was not doing too well, but he had a bit of a comeback. Yeah. Roma had won a bunch of games, but as we said, they'd had a very good win against Atalanta, which I think we were expecting them not to do too well against.
No.
They beat them 4-1, and then they drew with Sampdoria. Then but before that Atalanta Atalanta game. They beat Spezia. They beat CSK Moscow. So there was a bunch of wins that they got that we kind of felt like they should.
Yeah.
But then, went back to after that good win against Atalanta. They went back. They lost to Juve. They lost to Milan before hitting some more form, beating Cagliari, Lecce Empoli, and then drawing with a 10-man Genoa before their big matchup against Inter, who are at the top of the table. This is, like we said, a very, very interesting Serie A. It's so close.
Yeah. The matchup against Inter is for the Coppa Italia. A trophy hunt there.
Yeah, I'm very sad because my prediction about Atalanta winning Serie A looks very unlikely now. They played the same number of games as Inter, about 10 points behind. But we have Inter with a game in hand over Napoli on 53 points, Napoli on 52, AC Milan on 52, same number of games as Napoli, just behind on goal difference. And we have Juve with 45 points, showing their class, getting back into the top four.
Yeah.
But Atlanta do have a game in hand, even though they're 2 points behind. It's only a game in hand, so that they could they could finish fourth in the Champions League spot. So there's going to be a big fight over the Champions League spots as well.
Yeah. Because, Lazio and Roma aren't that far behind Juve. They're on 39 points. So 6 points behind. They don't have the game in hand. They're on 24 games as well. So Atalanta does have that benefit of a game in hand. But that's not still close enough in this. With enough matches left. In Serie A, Roma's got to play. I don't have to play any of those ones. I'll go play Atalanta, that and Lazio. So I mean that's potentially those sort of games are what's going to get them back into that spot.
Yeah,
Mourinho can still do it. Juventus still there. Atalanta still there. Lazio still there. Outside chance, I guess, for Fiorentina. 36 points, but with a game in hand, so they're also in the equation, but potentially just a little bit too far back, even with the game in hand.
I think so.
As we say, it's an extra game to fit into the schedule, which does at this stage of the competition starting to show your depth and how deep is your squad. Early on, having extra games in is not so bad because you're fresh and you're early in, but getting through February, March, having to squeeze extra games in, it's a bit harder. I mean, maybe not so much the Serie A because they've got the winter break, so they did have a break, opposed to Premier League, which just goes and throws extra games in there just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
Or for our fun, really.
Yes. I'm not complaining. But
neither.
But they've got a tricky bunch of schedules, as you said. They've got Inter in the Coppa Italia, and then they've got the Sassuolo, Hellas Verona before they get Spezia, who are probably going to be relegated, it looks like.
Yeah.
This season, and then next month they get Atalanta, Udinese, and the Rome derby against Lazio. So there's only maybe one game that's a gimme that Roma really should win, but the others are all fighting games. So this is where Mourinho's got to show the difference in class.
Exactly.
Be the Mourinho we all know he can be.
Exactly.
It does I do think that Roma's early form has hurt them. I don't think they're going to finish top 4 at the moment, but with their current progress and the way they've been playing, they should, I think, finish in a European spot. I think the goal of the season is to finish above Lazio.
Yeah, that's obviously the best goal.
If Lazio finish above Roma, I feel like the Mourinho might get fired.
Yeah, that's probably that unless because they had managed, if it's third, fourth, I mean, it's still going to be pretty untenable. But if he's at least got Champions League qualification,
Yeah.
like maybe they're like okay, but I don't think that's going to happen anyway. So it'll be one or the other. But yeah, if he doesn't make Champions League spot, finishing above Lazio has to at least happen. Otherwise, things could probably be bad. And I don't think he's in. The board of Roma are particularly happy with him anyway, but that said, they may just consider him. Who else could do it other than him? So
yeah, but you can't complain that you're having problems with Mourinho when you hired him. You hired him. This was gonna happen. But yeah, this is the situation so far for Uncle Mo. We'll see what he can do. This time in a few weeks away, we'll know further. But I'm not holding out hope for him, unfortunately.
No, I'm feeling also that things won't quite go his way. I mean, you say there's potentially just a couple of games there over the next little bit, next few weeks into this. Like if he gets those points on the board heading into March in the Atalanta game, then Atalanta, Udinese, Lazio in March, or maybe, but like there's some space to be made up, and he's not playing Juventus. So.
Yeah.
It's hard to catch someone when you don't play them.
Yeah, and they lost to Juventus in a close run thriller.
Yeah.
And if they can't beat Atalanta, I think that'll be that.
Yeah.
Whereas I think for my prediction with Atalanta, they have a reasonable schedule coming up, which had a bit of a gander at. They've got Fiorentina, Juve, so that's going to be the fight for the position. They've still in Europa League against Olympiacos. Then they play Fiorentina and then Olympiacos again, and then Sampdoria. And then before playing Roma, so that they have a busier February, so that is in Uncle Mo's favor when it comes to Atalanta. But yeah, I think Atalanta.
It's a busier schedule because they manage to stay in Europe. So, yay for Uncle Mo not having this busier schedule, but also, oh, that's right, you didn't even stay in the third tier European.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And I think Atalanta are one of the teams that can win the Europa League, so they're gonna do. I think they are gonna take it seriously. But that being said, I think they don't have anything really to fear other than that game against Juve. But the other clubs like Fiorentina and
the Fiorentina game could, like the one they won in the Coppa Italia, then they have to play them at the beginning of the month, then at the end of the month in Serie. Like Fiorentina is the dark horse currently for the fourth spot, so that's something that could slip them up. But I would say that Atalanta has potentially the more difficult.
Oh, they definitely have the more difficult February, just because they have so many more games.
Yeah, the extra games, and they've got like Juventus, so they need to win that. If they lose that, that's their chance at fourth spot slipping. They pretty much have to beat Fiorentina as well, because otherwise Fiorentina wins that, and it's at Fiorentina, so that would bring Fiorentina definitely into the match, into the race for fourth spot if they win that. So it's two in the Serie A. That's two, games that are actually have meaning for the run for fourth for Atalanta. They've got to against rivals for that fourth position that they need to win. So, I mean, those are psychologically tough games.
Yeah, I agree. That's we'll see how that pans out, but I don't I think if Fiorentina do beat Atalanta, that's going to be another rival for Uncle Mo to
Yeah.
have to deal with. And he's not really been up to the challenge, I think, so far when it comes to the near rivals and the teams above him.
Yeah.
So if he wants, now's the time. Atalanta aside, which was a good win.
Yeah.
The others, he hasn't really performed against the teams he needs to beat in order to be considered a contender. For Roma to be considered a contender. But we'll see. Maybe he'll get some reinforcements next season. Maybe. And Juve also did get Vlahovic from Fiorentina.
Right, yeah.
So that's gonna hurt. Vlahovic is a gun striker.
Yeah, well,
Just
that
letting
will
you know.
hurt Florentina, yeah.
That'll definitely hurt Fiorentina, and he is just so good. So I imagine that's going to be really difficult for Atalanta to overcome and Roma to overcome as well. But
Yeah.
if Atalanta win Europa League, you've got 5 teams, baby.
Yeah, maybe.
And okay, whereas Roma don't even have that fall back on.
Yeah. Roma just got to win.
Yeah.
Roma's just got to get them winning. If they win, then that results will start piling on for themselves. But if they can't get that winning machine going, then yeah, I don't think others' results are going to fall out for them. They don't have the track position, so to speak, and they don't have the schedule working in their favour as much. So.
And that being said, the top of the league is gonna be really, really interesting in Serie. Like all 3, like Inter are in pole position for sure. And because they're still in Europe, they have a tough run of fixtures coming up. Like they are playing Napoli.
Yeah.
Right off the bat after playing Roma. And then they're playing Liverpool, so that's a tough run of fixtures before they ease into ease quote unquote ease into Sassuolo and Genoa. Though Genoa look like a club that's going to be relegated. I made a mistake earlier when I said I think Spezia are going to be relegated. They're just not doing that well. Average. What I meant to say is Salernitana are probably going to be relegated, who are bottom of the Serie A at the moment. And Inter are playing them at home. Inter are playing them at home. Don't see that being a loss. Playing Liverpool, probably that's going to be the end of their Champions League. Then they get to play in the Europa League after that. They've got Torino, Fiorentina. Once again, and then they get to play Juve at the beginning of April. So while there are some tough games coming up ahead for them, they're games that, Inter have shown why they're at the top. They're tough and they're playing well. They're playing well in Europe as well. This is why they got to the knockout stage. So if they can beat Napoli and Juve in those games, I think that's it. They're champions, done.
Yeah,
nothing
I think
one can say.
The key match is going to be that Napoli game, I think. Because that's pretty much the closest bit there. If Napoli don't win that, then thereby into have a fun Serie A. We may as well start engraving things. But Napoli win that pulls it all back. Napoli have a bit of a difficult one. They're out of the Coppa Italia, but they got into the match. Then they go to Europa League against Barcelona. Cagliari, back with Barcelona, and then Lazio, Milan, before they get Verona, Udinese, Atalanta, and Fiorentina.
Barcelona. So. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
All those good players Barcelona have bought can't play for them in Europe this season, so the Napoli will probably beat Barcelona. So I'm just putting that out there.
They will probably win that, and once again, possibly can go on to win the Europa. It just does throw more games. Like they're probably going to win that. It just throws more games into their schedule after that, and they do have some difficult matches through March. So
I would be shocked if Napoli didn't make a semi-final at least.
Yeah.
They're in the Europa League. They're that good a team. Like they're very unlucky not to still be in the Champions League, I think. And they're deserved second in the Serie A. So, and like I said, I fully expect them to beat Barcelona over 2 legs. But they have it tough. You're right. They've got Inter, they've got Cagliari, they've got Lazio, they've got AC Milan. Yeah, that's basically they beat AC Milan in March. That's probably cemented at least second for them.
Yeah. So yeah, but
And then
they win these matches. I think they win the Inter match, they win the Milan match, beat Lazio.
they're in pole position to win the league at that point if that happens.
So yeah.
And
does make that battle for the top pretty cool, really.
It's
pretty close all round. And Milan's still in the Coppa Italia. They have a little bit of easier February with Sampdoria, Salernitana, Udinese.
Yeah. It's interesting that AC Milan got Lazio and Inter Milan got Roma. Like they both got, the Roma clubs got the Milan clubs and vice versa. I just find that interesting. Just the way the draw fell out. They go to Florence to play Sampdoria. They've got Salernitana and they've got Udinese. So they do have an easier February. Depending on how many games do get played, they might be top of Serie A at the beginning of March.
It is a possibility.
But once again, I don't think they're going to beat Napoli. I think Napoli are shown to be a better side. They're, better players, better coached. They're going to play. Then they've got another game against teams like Lazio and Fiorentina coming up, and Atalanta in May. So I think it's going to be difficult for them to come second with all that.
Yeah.
That matchup against Napoli and Inter, if Napoli do win, that's when AC Milan might be able to leapfrog to the top at some point. But or if it's a draw.
Yeah. If it's a draw, but I think that only lasts until Napoli beat AC Milan.
Yeah, I think Napoli will beat
Milan.
They go down to Naples at home. Yeah, I agree with that.
But that's still an interesting race there at the top. You say it's only 1 point separating them. Inter does have the game in hand, so they switch out to 4 points. But like all of them are still play each other. They've still all got European fixtures thrown into the mix.
I know. It's the best league to watch this season. I'm so glad Mourinho moved to Serie A.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because the whole thing seems to be in play, including the 4th place.
Yeah.
I think Bundesliga, it's pretty much going to be Bayern. Obviously, Ligue 1 is pretty much going to be PSG. I think basically Syria. There's Sevilla and Real Madrid are at the top. That is a bit interesting, to be fair. Sevilla did manage to win Syria, La Liga at some point, so that might be worth looking into coming up. Yeah. And their eternal rival Real Betis is 3rd.
Look at that. That is reasonably interesting. But yeah, it is having the look that Real Madrid's probably going to keep ahead there, but Sevilla,
I think Real Madrid have kind of almost cemented that win.
I mean, maybe Sevilla, who they've been drawing, I see the last 3 matches, that's less than ideal for them.
Yeah, and
against Salernitana, Celta Vigo, and Osasuna.
Yeah,
probably less than ideal for them, really.
And the Sevilla have a decent run of games coming up next month. That's not too busy. They've got 2 European games and only 3 La Liga games. And they're playing the likes of Elche and Espanyol. Espanyol's a tough fixture, but Sevilla should be able to play them. And then they get the Sevilla derby, but they play at home against Betis. And then they get Alaves, Vallecano, and Sociedad. Yeah, it's doable. And then they play Barcelona. Like if Real Madrid drop games, which is also possible if Real go further in the Champions League, which I don't think they will, but they will be playing the Europa League if they don't do not go further in the Champions League like we're expecting. So it could be they've got like Real Madrid have Villarreal to play in La Liga, then they play Alaves, and then they play Real Vallecano, so they have a very easy February coming up. But then they get to play Sociedad. We know the Basque teams always are up for playing Real. They play Mallorca, and then they play Barcelona. And then they get a crowded bunch of fixtures in April and May. So that's going to be where that could be a crash situation. They have to play the likes of Getafe, so that's a Madrid derby. They play Sevilla, they play Atletico, they play Espanyol, and they play Betis as well, who are in third, trying to get a Champions League spot. So Real Madrid don't have an easy run-in.
No.
I'm not saying Real Madrid are not going to finish top, by the way. I'm just saying it's not on a platter for them. It often is. Like often, Real Madrid has the the La Liga. When they win, it's handed on them on a platter.
Yeah. I think you're right. It's not going to be necessarily the most simplest way, but they should keep the advantage. But yeah, Sevilla, even Real Betis probably a bit too far, but Sevilla definitely close enough and definitely got the games in hand, or the games to do it to make sure that Real's been pushed.
Yeah, to be fair, Real are out of the Copa del Rey, which is why they have such a easy schedule. Betis is still in the Copa del Rey. They're still in the Europa League. They have a big matchup against Zenit, which might be the end of their journey, unfortunately. But that does mean they get to the Conference League, I think.
Yeah.
If they lose at this point. But once again, they have that's a busy February, but their really tough fixture is probably the Sevilla. Sevilla at Sevilla. And then they have to play. They've got Athletic Club. They've got Atletico Madrid. They've got Sociedad. So they do have to go up to Basque Country to beat those teams, and then they have Barcelona to come up, and obviously Real Madrid, like we mentioned, and Valencia.
Yeah.
So Betis have been playing an interesting thing of football. I've been hearing some interesting vibes from the football hipsters from them. So don't be surprised if they do finish in a Champions League spot. The first time since the days of Denilson. Do you remember Denilson from the 98 World Cup?
Yes, I remember him. But that's a while back.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think Real Betis definitely have a good chance of claiming one of those Champions League spots, which, looking here, probably mean either Barcelona, Atletico, or Villarreal all in the Champions League.
And also Sociedad, looking at that, and Athletic Club.
Yeah, they're both there. Actually, they're close enough. Yeah, that
the top 8 are all within a chance to finish in a Champions League spot. Obviously, Real Madrid are not. I don't think are going to finish below 4th. Let's just put that out of the table. I think Sevilla are also not going to finish below 2nd. Let's just put that out there. I think they've done well enough, and they've shown the class. To get, and they win Europa Leagues for breakfast. Okay, so they're not going to be distracted by Europa League. This is a team that does well in does well in La Liga while winning Europa League. So this
exactly.
There's not. We don't even need to go into that. So
I think we're happy to stick. Between Madrid and Real Madrid and Sevilla, that's 1 and 2, whatever order that might take in, which is likely Real then Sevilla, but. Whatever order that takes, that's 1 and 2. So it's 2 Champions League spots between.
But Real can't afford to drop any games, basically.
No.
It's going to be a very interesting Serie A. But we've got Betis, Barcelona, Atletico, Villarreal, Sociedad, Athletic Club, and maybe even you could look at Rayo Vallecano. That's 9 points between
Yeah.
third and ninth.
Yeah,
Rayo
yeah.
Vallecano have a game in hand is the only reason I'm kind of counting them.
Yeah, fair enough.
Barcelona have a game in hand over Betis, so they could finish third. But once again, Barcelona have a tough fixture list. We mentioned that they're gonna face Napoli in the Europa League,
Yeah.
but they have bought in some very good players. How quickly they bed in is gonna be the key here. But they've got an Espanyol to play, who are Barcelona derby, Valencia, the Catalan-speaking derby, and then they play Athletic Club. And we all know the Basque country teams love beating Barcelona and Madrid.
Yeah.
It's always tough to go up there for these teams. And then they play Real Madrid in March, so they have a relatively easy, quote unquote, easy schedule. They are out of the Copa del Rey, which is to their benefit, probably.
Yeah.
They're gonna get into the Conference League. Maybe Barcelona wins the first ever UEFA Conference League. We'll see.
Possibly.
And then in April they play the likes of Sevilla, Sociedad. As that's another two tough teams in that month, and then their May is Mallorca, followed by Betis, Celta Vigo, Getafe, and Villarreal.
Yeah, that's
There's no easy games in that May, and
No.
I think they don't have quite got that fixture congestion that Real Madrid have at the end.
Yeah.
And we expect Real Madrid to be in the Europa League playing out stuff at that point. Barcelona might not be.
Yeah.
Depending on, because they can't use all their good new players they've got in the Conference League.
Yeah.
They don't have a thing, so I think Barcelona might be the favorites to finish third, unfortunately for Betis.
Yeah, the only thing against that is that May is fairly tough for them. Like that's a fairly like they're playing three of the tenders for that Champions League spot. So depending a little bit on how things are falling out by then, that could make things a little bit more difficult. I think you're right that Barcelona is probably the key contenders for that third spot.
Yeah. And I don't think there's also issues about Dembele and the team. He's not going to resign and things like that. He's on too much money. Barcelona is always a club that feels like they can implode. So therefore, I'm always a bit weary. Betis seem more stable. Sure, a game in hand is a game in hand is a game in hand, but I think you'd rather have points.
Yeah.
Even if the points are not going to be, are not quite enough to hold off the guy behind you. Atletico Madrid, if they win their game, they're going to be behind Betis. Assuming Barcelona were to win their game in hand and Atletico were to win their game in hand, they would still be outside the top four.
Yeah.
But that being said, those clubs, Villarreal, Sociedad, Athletic, Rayo Vallecano, they should be sniffing blood. They should not be afraid of those clubs and the up ahead of them. Go after them for those European spots. Giant kill a few Barças. This is the season to do it. If you're a club plucky little Levante, Alaves, Cadiz, this is this season. If you're going to be relegated, come on, it's time to get a scalp. That's famously for your fan. Go after Barcelona. They're there for the killing. Or Atletico Madrid. Unfortunately, the clubs they're not doing too well at the moment.
Yeah. Well, exactly, and it could be it's going for that famous win, but also it's a few extra points, and quote unquote unexpected points. That sure, Levante that's not going to help them, but Alaves, Cadiz, maybe that's something that helps out. That's 3 points that aren't in everybody's calculations. Something that just pulls everybody a little bit closer and just gives you something to hope for.
But yeah, there's a good chance end of this season, Andalusia will have 2 teams in the Champions League next season.
Ooh.
And Madrid will only have 1. And heck, Heck, Barcelona might not have any.
Yeah,
It's
crazy
all for
times.
play, all to play.
Yeah,
So yeah, two very interesting. Like I said, like less interesting. I think Syria is less interesting, but it's still an interesting battle going on. There's at least a fight for the championship at the top.
yeah. The Serie A in Italy, yeah, definitely is I think the one to watch. So there's a battle at the top. There's a battle at fourth.
Yeah.
And if you took a closer look, there's probably more battles further down as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
we're not.
yeah,
That's not our bread and butter, and we'll happily admit that. Like I said, we just took a cursory, exploratory view of these two leagues, but
yeah,
we have been cursor. We've also sort of been keeping a side eye at it and seeing when
yeah,
people are talking, paying attention, because it's everybody's saying interesting things. There's a bunch of managers from Syria that you might see starting to look to work overseas.
yeah,
I think if Betis and Sevilla, if Betis can finish in the Champions League spot, there's going to be a lot of players who are going potentially be looked at by big clubs there.
yeah.
Oh,
Like,
Manuel Pellegrini is managing Betis. This is why.
right,
Because he's a really good manager. There you
Oh,
go.
that explains so much. Like, all right, yeah,
So I was just like wondering, like I knew something like this. Like, so I made a mistake earlier. Pellegrini's not at Villarreal, though he was at Villarreal back in the day and took
yeah,
them to the Champions League semi-finals. But
yeah,
they have a very good team, and
yeah.
like hearing a lot about their tactics and what they do on the field and how they line up. And I was just like, why? Who is the manager of this team? Like, I feel like I should have heard about a good new manager. Oh, he's not a good new manager. He's a good old manager.
Yeah, to say it makes a lot of sense once you put the name Pellegrini there. Like, oh yeah, that is how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, that could be like a crowning career achievement if he manages to get. It would be so sad for Real Betis to make it back to the Champions League and Sevilla wins that season.
Oh dear, that's very bittersweet for them.
Yeah, like this is forget the old firm between Rangers and Celtic. This is the most bad-tempered and heated derby in Europe.
Yeah,
This is literally the line. The lines between Sevilla and Betis are literally the lines between the nationalists and the Republicans during the Spanish Civil War, and
right, yeah,
people on both sides literally know people who killed family members and things like this. These are personal vendettas in
yeah,
this club. So this is not just a city derby, and it just happens to be a particularly big city derby. No, this has history, and there's a thing, and the Andalusian derby is, I think, considered to be the big derby.
yeah. No, it's crazy thoughts really when you think about the history between the two clubs.
I mean, when you consider that it's worse tempered than Old Firm.
Yeah, no, and
It's,
that's crazy to think about. Like, actually worse than Rangers Celtic. A crazy, crazy thought.
yeah, is
Yeah,
there's a real class divide in the Betis Sevilla one as well. Like
yeah,
Betis
yeah.
is the team that votes, the socialists and the working class club, and like Sevilla, the guys who still vote for the fascists and like right wing conservative.
All right.
That's yeah, that's pretty bad. But looking at that team, Hector Bellerin is playing at Betis on loan from Arsenal.
Oh, that is good
Yeah,
for them.
Queen is still around. Yeah, Queen is still around, and he's the captain of Betis. Oh my gosh,
Oh, you still look there. Yeah,
the man with the magic
Bellerin.
right foot.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
40 years old. 40. Yeah.
Yeah, rightfully club captain.
Yeah.
But, Alex Mourinho, Rodri. Miranda. You might see a few players here. William Carvalho
Yeah.
playing in it. That's a very Nabil Fekir. There's a few useful. Sergio Canales, of course, who's playing as the vice captain, because obviously your captain's a 40-year-old winger. Sure, he's a club legend. Don't get me wrong. This Sergio is like a current day Betis legend, looks like. But yeah, that's a useful side.
Yeah, no, it's the bad.
But I don't think they're gonna win. But I think they
No.
could win. They could go to. They could get third. I think they could beat Barcelona to third. I think I didn't make a prediction on. I think that Barcelona are not going to finish in a Champions League spot this season.
Ooh.
That's my prediction. I don't know who is though.
Yeah.
I can't say. It's so close. It's so difficult to call.
I want to give it to Real Betis just because.
I think Real Betis will finish third. I'm saying they're
Yeah.
going to finish third. I think it'll be Madrid, Sevilla. Okay, I'm going to make a prediction. I do think Sevilla's going to finish top. They're going to win. I think Madrid will finish second. I think Betis will finish third. And I am going to say, oh, yeah, Atletico is going to finish fourth. Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Though I might put Real Madrid actually not hard and think of Real Madrid top, Betis, then yeah, Atletico Barcelona just to fade out.
Yeah. But next season for Barcelona is going to be all different.
Yeah.
Especially with no Champions League football. Barcelona could finish out of the European spots.
I don't think it would quite go that badly for them, but yeah, they could.
They could. They're only 3 points ahead of the teams behind them, like Villarreal, Sociedad. Villarreal, sure, they have a game on hand over Villarreal, but
Yeah.
Sociedad, yeah, even Vallecano, they're only about 7 points behind them.
Yeah, only 7 points, but
If they get into a
pretty
slump
solid.
or get an injury, then yeah.
I mean, yeah, it can go that way.
But I don't think so. I think you're right. They will finish in Europe. Like it's not going to go that far. But yeah, I think they're not going to get fourth. Yeah, but yeah, I think with that being said, that's all we have time for today.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for listening, and we'll look forward to hearing from you next time.
Catch you next time.